Obviously, this afternoon you attended the bond hearing for Mr. Kenyon Cornelius Hopper. He's been charged in the death of Montrell Jordan McMullins, 23-year-old that was shot and killed in the Sugar Shack nightclub here in Cherokee County on January the 19th. This investigation has been very active throughout the past 10 days now. Our investigators spent a lot of time the past week in North Carolina. And actually, just within days of the shooting, the investigation led us to Shelby, North Carolina. And our lead investigator is Investigator Sergeant Parnell. He has spent this past week, a little over a week, working very closely with the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Norman and his staff, along with the Shelby Police Department officers and the chief there, which is Mr. Jeffrey Ledford, the chief of Shelby Police Department. They were very instrumental in helping us make this arrest. They helped us ID some of the individuals that we had on the video that we obtained from the nightclub. And again, I cannot express my appreciation of the cooperation between law enforcement agencies crossing over state boundaries. We see that cooperation on a local level and throughout our state, but to have the opportunity to work with our counterparts across the line in North Carolina, again, this arrest would not have been possible had they not been dedicated to get this person off the streets, and they looked for him around the clock. We actually been looking for Mr. Hopper since January the 21st, actually 2.5 days after the shooting. We did not put that out publicly because we were hoping that we could recover some evidence related to the shooting, and but those folks were a tremendous help, and with their efforts we were able to apprehend him late Monday afternoon. He went before a magistrate in North Carolina, was arraigned there, and he waived his extradition to South Carolina, and our investigators picked him up late Tuesday afternoon, and then he was formally charged last night with the charge of murder, 4 counts of attempted murder for the other 4 victims, and then today we've had the bond hearing. What we'd like to say about this case, number one, it's not over with. There are still other persons that we know were firing weapons at this nightclub on the night of the 19th. And it is crucial, it's paramount, that if you were at this nightclub and you have information about the minutes leading up to the shooting, as well as the events that took place during the shooting, we need you to call Crime Stoppers at 188-CRIME-SC. If you choose to remain anonymous, that's the number you should call. And if you'd like to talk with our investigator, please call the Sheriff's Office at 864-489-4722, and that's extension 117. That'll put you straight to Investigator Parnell. We still would like to talk with you. With the video that we've got, we just need a few more pieces of the puzzle to help us connect those dots and identify other shooters so that charges can be brought against additional persons as well. And at this time, I'll take some questions.
How was he apprehended in North Carolina?
We had been looking in a specific area. We got information of a particular house that he was at, and we were able to locate him. Shelby Police Department was able to locate him in that area.
Was he arrested without incident?
He was. The arrest took place without any incident.
How many do you think? Can you tell us how many more people you think are involved at this time?
I would tell you that we're confident that there were multiple shooters based off the types of rounds that were recovered, and then obviously to tell you how many shooters actually caused the injuries to those others that were shot. Still we're waiting on some forensic, some ballistic testing, things like that before we can come to that conclusion. But I can tell you that I'm confident that there's probably at least 2 more people out there, maybe more, that should be held responsible in some form or fashion for the injuries to the other persons involved in this nightclub shooting.
Do you think the people are people of interest? Are there people from the Cherokee County area or maybe out of state? Or
I would tell you at this stage of the investigation, everything is leading us to Shelby and folks that are affiliated with gang affiliations out of Shelby, North Carolina.
And how does it feel that you already got one suspect in custody at this time?
We're always excited that we can take a bad guy off the street, regardless of the type of crime that they commit. But this is a very serious crime, so we're excited that we can get this person off the streets, whether it's in South Carolina or North Carolina. They don't need to be out on the streets causing this type of carnage. And then we're excited for the family because again, this doesn't bring closure for this family. It just starts the process. And this family has a long way to go to take the case through the judicial process and to see the justice that they want to see and that's after a person is either convicted or pleads guilty and then is sentenced, then that family can begin to have true justice. So we're just excited that we could announce this news to the family and now walk with them in a separate phase of the investigation, and that's through the judicial process.
Do the victim and suspect know each other?
We have information to believe that they, I don't want to call them acquaintances or good friends, but I believe that they've had interaction in the past and that they at least probably knew of each other. And I won't dive off into their exact relationship at this part of the investigation.
Should people in the community be concerned that other people that might be involved with this are still out there on the loose?
Oh, absolutely, and that's why we put the plea out. If you know of the persons that were responsible for the shooting at the nightclub, consider them armed and dangerous. I mean, they shot 60-plus rounds at this nightclub, and they're armed and dangerous. And if you know who they are or where they are, you need to call Crime Stoppers, or you need to call the sheriff's office. We want these hooligans off the streets. They do not need to be out in society. Very easily, someone else's life could be taken. And so, again, we want to aggressively go after them as well.
What's the status of closing the nightclub at this point?
The status from the sheriff's office side, we are not going to have to move forward with the civil process of trying to get it closed as a result of the property owner. Had nothing to do with the operation of the club. The property owner who rented or leased the property, he made the decision to pull the plug on the club. He contacted the club operator and basically give them 2 weeks to vacate the premises. So for all intents and purposes, thanks to that property owner, Mr. Albert Stevens, we had talked in depth the night after the shooting, Sunday morning, and he let me know on that Sunday morning, he said, Sheriff, I want to do whatever I can do to make our community safer. And he says, as long as I own that property, I will never allow anybody to rent it or lease it for a nightclub. And it's sad that he has to make that decision as a business owner. But when people who operate these clubs fail to do what they need to do to protect the patrons in a nightclub, then Mr. Stevens he's doing the right thing for our county. And as a business owner, he made a decision that in the end I think he'll be blessed for.
So he's the property owner. It's Mr. Stevens.
Yes, sir. Mr. Albert Stevens is the property owner.
How do you spell his name?
It's Stevens. First name is Albert, common spelling. And then the the operator of the nightclub is Doug Hayes.
Okay. H-A-Y-S?
H-A-Y-E-S.
Okay.
And I guess I was going to ask, has there been a couple shootings in the past? There's been people from like the Shelby area, I think.
It's been a trend where the folks from Shelby come down here and cause and create violence. And so, they have been linked to several shootings in our community over the past year, 18 months. And what we do know, based off the extensive time that we spent with the investigators up there, specifically their gang investigators, these folks they're part of a gang up there. And again, they come down here and create havoc and cause carnage and cause death. And but we just want them to know, just like if you're here locally and you're into this lifestyle, we're going to be very aggressive. We're going after you. State lines don't mean anything. We're going to use the feds to go after these young guys, young men who are toting firearms unlawfully and illegally. And as I put out my press conference the other day after another shooting unrelated to this one, these people are immature. They're not responsible. These are not law-abiding citizens who have these guns. So we're going after the folks who should not have the guns in the first place. And we'll seek to have every one of those cases where a person has a gun unlawfully who has a criminal record, we want them to go to federal court, where hopefully we'll get at least 5 years in prison for them. Anything else, ladies, gentlemen?
You're not going to talk about motive.
No, we're not going to talk about the motive. It's still, like I say, the investigation is still very fluid. And like I said, we have what we believe is a reasonable motive established at this point. But again, we want to finish dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And we want to finish the investigation. And we don't want to put too much out publicly that both some witnesses can hear and see through the interview, as well as some of the bad guys that we haven't arrested yet that they can hear and see. We want to hear their story, their version, and see if it matches up with the facts that we already know are true. Okay?